Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 21st August 2018. The first issue news is regarding the recent floods in several districts of Kerala and in certain districts of Karnataka. In Kerala, the rainfall has come down and even the water level has begun to recede from the flood affected areas, but given the situation of the state, the central government has already categorized it as an L3 level disaster, which is the highest categorization under the existing rules. It is done by taking into consideration the scale of the disaster as well as the population of the devastated area. Meanwhile, efforts continued to restore communication services, power and water supply, as well as the distribution of relief material was stepped up. Measures were taken to help residents clean up their houses, disinfect water sources, and also medical teams have begun to spread out across the district. In a similar incident, rescue and relief operations have reached their last phase in the Kodagu district of Karnataka in collaboration with the Army and the National Disaster Response Force. Multiple agencies had been involved in the operations, and the district administration is taking several steps in order to prevent the outbreak of diseases by ensuring cleanliness and hygiene. For this, additional staff from different cities have been deployed, and measures such as the provision of bio-toilets and mobile toilets are being provided to the relief centers, along with measures to ensure the supply of clean drinking water to the villages. The government has also taken the decision to provide employment opportunities for the displaced under the Manrega scheme and also involve individuals in clearing the debris due to floods. Now let's move on to a related topic, which was regarding the demand made by several individuals as well as entities for the declaration of Kerala floods as a national disaster. The union government has already declared the Kerala floods as a calamity of severe nature, which is the highest categorization under the existing rules, and at the same time has highlighted that there is no provision in the existing laws or rules for the government to designate a disaster as a national calamity. According to the National Disaster Management Policy, the state governments have to provide disaster relief from their respective state disaster response funds, and only a calamity of severe nature will be provided with additional assistance from the National Disaster Response Fund. The National Disaster Response Fund is funded through a national calamity and contingent duty which is levied on pan masala, chewing tobacco, and cigarettes, along with the budgetary provisions as and when needed. The 14th Finance Commission had recommended changes to this structure once the cess was discontinued or subsumed within the goods and services tax, but the government has decided to continue with the national calamity and contingent duty even under the GST regime. There is also a provision to encourage any person or institution to make a contribution into the NDRF, but this source of funding has not been tapped so far. On the other hand, the State Disaster Response Fund is contributed by the Union government as well as the respective state governments in a ratio of 75:25 for general category states and at the ratio of 90:10 for special category states. The allocation of SDRF for each state is done by the Finance Commission, and the center contributes its specified share in each financial year. A point to be noted here is the Gujarat earthquakes as well as the Odisha super cyclone, which were the cause for the setting up of a National Disaster Response Fund and a dedicated force under the National Disaster Management Act, were also declared as a disaster of severe nature and not as a national disaster. Therefore, the article rightly explains the guidelines involved, and there could be a question on this specific topic alone due to its relevance. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is an editorial regarding the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which comprises of the 10 ASEAN members and their free trade agreement partners, namely Australia, China, India, Japan, New Zealand, and the Republic of Korea. if you can recall, a question on the countries involved in the RCEP had figured in this year's prelims examination. It is back in news as the negotiations have reached the final stage and there have been demands by several countries for members to step out if they have disagreements over the terms of the agreement. India is one among those countries which has raised several concerns with the RCEP negotiations, the first being greater access to Chinese goods, which could further worsen India's massive trade deficit with China. In order to circumvent this, India has demanded a differential market access strategy for China as well as increasing access for Indian goods such as pharma and agricultural products. The second concern is regarding the demands made by other RCEP countries for lower custom duties on several products and a greater market access than India has been willing to provide. Meanwhile, the more developed countries in the RCEP, such as Australia and Singapore, have been unwilling to accommodate India's demands to liberalize their services regime and allow greater mobility of Indian workers. Due to all this and the impending elections of some of the RCEP countries, including India, where there is a tendency of the governments to turn protectionist, the government must take into account the consequences of either slowing down the engagement with RCEP or walking out of the talks at this stage, because any such measure would give China a greater space in the regional trade and security architecture at a time when the US is pulling away from the multilateral trade agreements. Given the fact that the RCEP countries represent 40% of the global GDP and engagement with this community is in accordance with India's active policy, the Indian government should remain engaged with the RCEP negotiations. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the call for constructive engagement with Pakistan by our Prime Minister. The Pakistan government had claimed that India had called for a dialogue, but later clarified that our Prime Minister had only sought for a constructive engagement with the newly constituted Pakistani government. If you can recall, the government had taken a principled stance that terror and talks can't go hand in hand, and the government would only hold talks with Pakistan when it acts against terror suspects and terror outfits. The final issue in news today is regarding the confirmation by the UK government regarding Nirav Modi's presence in the country. As you are aware, he was involved in the huge 13,000 crore scam of the Punjab National Bank, and various agencies like the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate had moved extradition requests in connection with money laundering cases. However, the exact whereabouts of him were not established, and therefore the CBI had sought the help of its counterparts in as many as 6 countries to determine its location. Further, another accused in the fraud, Mr. Mehul Choksi, has taken refuge in Antigua, and the Indian government has already approached the Antiguan government seeking cooperation in getting his custody to ensure that he faces the trial in the case. On that note, I'm wrapping up today's news analysis. Do like, share, and comment to support this initiative. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.